Okay, welcome to the Briggs Academy video cast. I got one of my really good friends, Mr. Paul Schroeder. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm really good, Jesse. Thanks for having me
Awesome.
on the show.
Very good. Yeah, always a pleasure. So this week is the first week of January, and a lot of people are looking to set goals. I wrote an article on the Briggs Academy blog about goal setting,
Yeah,
and you and we do this very often, and sometimes it's really hard even to do a New Year's goal thing because we're usually like in the middle of doing something already.
right.
Uh, I remember having this conversation maybe 3 or 4 years ago where we said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sit down and we're going to get our basically a Gudo is like, instructor or black belt
Yeah,
in Kali.
right.
Remember?
I do. I do.
Yeah. And,
Hey, we
and,
did it.
um, we did it. We actually did it. We followed through. We had some obstacles that came along the way, some difficulties with the finances of being able to travel to do it, and we were able to overcome it with creativity and you know and following a path. And so I wanted to talk about that in the goal setting. So
Yeah.
basically, I broke it down back like it was an old Tony Robbins thing that I used to do, and I'm sure you're familiar with it with goal setting, where
I
basically,
tried
the,
first for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So basically, the first step is to set your goals. The second step is to put dates for when you want to accomplish those things.
Hmm.
Um, Third is the why. And so I want to talk about the why first, and then we'll talk about the next one that's kind of cool is, the follow through and the positives and negatives. But we talk about why. Um, I think this is something where a lot of people will set a goal and
Hmm.
they won't answer this question of, well, why do you want to do this in the first place? Why is it? And they don't get clear about that. So once they start hitting obstacles, they will very often give up because of that.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and yeah, I was going to let you kind of wrap on that a little bit of what you think and how important it is to answer the why question.
I think it's crucially important to answer the why. And, I like to study this stuff a lot too and get involved in workshops and things. And one of the most provocative things I've ever heard about the why is that sometimes when you're developing your why, it's very easy to be a little bit too altruistic or too like trying to say what sounds the most noble or the deepest reason. Like I really want to do this to really help and serve other people, or I want to have this why that's just so high and lofty. And the problem with that is that sometimes it's not really true. Like
Yeah.
I want to get in shape because I want to look good. And that's really my driving force. So I think it's good to get clear about the why and be okay if your why isn't necessarily doesn't sound as wonderful or altruistic. If your why is a simple why, if like, well, I want my business to go, well, why do you really want that? Because I'd like to make some more money.
Yes. Yeah.
Also apply it if that's really what is your driving force. Then it's okay to own that, because you got to get really honest and really hone in as to what that is, and stay away from kind of like the resistance of making sure that it sounds good, making sure that it
Yeah.
sounds so noble,
Yeah.
because that's not really the driving force. Now, if your driving force is, I want to get my body in shape so I can spend more time with my kids, if that's truly what it is, then that will be your driving force. But if you're just saying that so that you'll sound good, then you haven't really touched the heart of really what you want. And I think that that's the whole thing. And that's something that Tony Robbins always says, which is, if you can tell me what you want, I can show you how to get it. But it's okay to have a why that doesn't sound politically correct, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
I absolutely true. And this is something I've seen a lot of fitness coaches talk about is the people will tell you what they think you want to hear.
Yeah.
And I get this a lot too when I ask people like, and I try to do this when people come into my school because if it's a very superficial thing, they have a bad month and they're gone.
Right.
And it's like, well, what good did doing 2 months of jujitsu do for you? And I go, no, 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 no. I want to know why. Why are you doing this?
Yeah. Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
and not. I don't want to hear because I want to be a world champion. Nobody wants to be a world champion. Like you want to be a world champion. If you do want to be a world champion, there's a reason, and I want to hear it. And it's
Right.
okay if it's, you know what, my dad told me I couldn't accomplish anything, and I want to do something to prove him wrong. And I want the glory of being an MMA fighter, and girls didn't like me before, and I want to have all these girls around me. Then because as a coach, I need to use that to say, hey, do you remember that time that you told me you wanted this? And I got to paint that picture for you again so that
Right.
you get back on track. And if it's not true,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. It's not
I
going
have
to
a lot of goals. I'm looking here, and it's like, just looking at my own goals, and a lot of them are for really selfish reasons, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I got to be clear about it, right? Like one of them is to get my judo black belt. Do I need a judo black belt? No, I
Yeah.
don't. But it's that, okay, I'm going to be able to put that other certificate on my wall, and it's going
Yeah.
to be complete. And when somebody says this, I can be like, well, I have this, and I hold it, and
Right.
it gives some validity to what I do,
Right.
and so, yeah.
No, it's true. I mean, I think it's important because we have so many messages out there from our religion, our family, there's all of these kind of conflicting worldviews that converge on the mind and tell us what we should want or what we shouldn't want. And when you get to the heart of what you really want, then you can be more clear. You can be more clear of how to move forward and really attain that goal. And then also understand that once you attain that goal, it's not, you haven't arrived anywhere. You attained a goal, and so now you need to start again, start another goal. I also think it's important to set time limits and realistic expectations on the goals. So
Yes.
they say that a goal without a time limit is a wish. A goal with a time limit, now you can manage. Now you can start to thin slice and say, okay, well, if I want to be here in 6 weeks or I want to be here in 3 months, then what are the things that I need to do in order to get there? And then break those up to what I'm going to do daily for that goal, what I'm going to do, how much time I'm going to spend on that goal, and realize that if I thin slice it like that, then I can chunk it in small pieces rather than just say, well, my goal is, to be a world champion. Well, that's great. Well, what do I need to do 20 minutes a day to get there? Or how much work am I going to need to put into this a day? And then what time am I going to do it? Am I going to do it at 9 a.m.? How many classes a week am I going to have to attend? What am I going to have to do at home? And then write these clear expectations and put pen to paper with it,
Absolutely. Yeah.
kind of craft that time, and then also be realistic about it. If I'm going to say,
Yeah.
okay, so I'm going to work 4 hours a day on this goal. Well, is that even reasonable? Are you able to
Yeah.
do that?
You have
Really? Are
4
you
hours
able
a
to do
day
it?
to do it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think too that there's a difference between like consistent practice and scattered practice. Scattered practice is, it's kind of like cramming for a test where the test is coming. So well, I'm going to go have drinks with my friends. I'll study later. And then the day before the test, I cram 4 hours, 5 hours of study. And then I run in with all that information swimming around my head and I try to do the test. Well, I'm probably not going to pass the test. But if I chunk it and I say, okay, I'm going to do 15 minutes of study a day. And if I do that every day, well, then at the time of the test, I'm already prepared. Now the goal is easier to attain if it's to get an A or whatever. So I think time limits are really important, like, okay, in 3 months, I'm going to be here and it's realistic. If I say, okay, in 3 months, I'm a white belt in jujitsu and I want to get my black belt, it's really not realistic. But if
Yeah.
I say, okay, in 6 months, I want to get whatever, my first or second stripe. And then in the next 6 months, I can set the other goal, which is my second stripe or third stripe or whatever it is my fitness goals are, if it's to lose a pound a week. And if I thin slice those chunked goals into smaller parts, then it's a lot easier, And I also
Man.
think that one of the things you brought up, we were talking about, which is, that motivation factor. People want to get motivated. Motivation is good, but discipline is better.
Yes.
Discipline trumps motivation, you know, and this is something that you and I talk about. You gotta have that discipline, because you're not going to feel motivated all the time. You know, if I have a certain fitness goal or a diet goal, sometimes you're going to want to eat the cheeseburger, or, you know, drink that extra beer, or whatever you're going to do. You're not going to always feel motivated. Motivation is kind of a fleeting state. It comes and goes. But discipline is what you do. Like, you know, you brush your teeth whether you like to or not. You know, you don't always feel motivated to brush your teeth, but you know you have to do it. And that's why I think that's one of the pieces that people miss, is not thin slicing those goals into smaller chunks and not realizing that they're not going to always feel like doing it.
Yep.
Right. It's like, okay, how often are we going to really feel like doing those Kali reps? Well, oh gosh, swing the stick again, you know, but that's it. You got to have that discipline for it.
Oh, so true. And I remember it was at a time, my wife was we were in between having our third child, and there was so much going on at the time, and I had some other goals, and they conflicted a little bit in this. And I just said, okay, when I get home from the gym, I'm going to sit in my living room. I would set the timer, and I would just get the repetitions in. I'd be like, all right, if it's Sinawali, I'm going to do 3,000 Sinawalis.
Right.
All right, variation of the Sinawali, variation of the Sinawali. And just wrap it out, and just like, boom, don't feel any way about it. It was a punch the clock. I took 30 minutes, plugged it, and like you said, and this is something that happens even in jiu-jitsu. I have like ups and downs through the year. I mean, it's such a hard sport. There's no off season. You're always at it. And so, it would probably surprise people. It's like, oh, you do jiu-jitsu for a living. It must be amazing. I mean, there's sometimes I go months where I'm just like, oh man, you're just tired. And I go, all right, when that happens, I know that there's a minimum standard. I just go, just get this many rolls.
Right.
Every day, 15 minutes of, even if it's just like a drill, some days just drills.
Yeah.
And just, teach the classes, but just do 15 minutes of it just to stay sharp, so that when you're starting to feel that passion rise again, you can go with that motivation. But it becomes this, I change the character of who I am because I'm a disciplined person to follow through with my goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the motivation usually comes, or the inspiration usually comes, as a result of the discipline. So when it's like you go to the gym, and you're at the gym January 2nd, January 3rd, and it's packed because everybody's making their New Year's resolution. Go back February 1st, although half those people are gone, right? So they lack motivation, or they lack follow through, or they lack discipline. So it's the discipline then that feeds the inspiration. So at first, the inspiration will be there. You just started, and then it's going to go away. And so if you're not writing down those small things you're going to do every day, then it just becomes so abstract. You lose motivation, and then you forget the goal entirely. It says, hey, man, remember that goal to be at the gym every day? How's that going?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. But the discipline to do it. Now you have momentum, and that momentum can carry you more than the discipline. Now you've got momentum. It's a habit. They say it takes 21 days to make a habit. So I've done it 21, 22 days. Now it's just something I do,
That's so, and that's true. And it kind of brings back to another point too, is why writing the why is so important, because let me turn the volume down and echo here. Okay. Sometimes what happens is, like, we will set an arbitrary goal, and the goal isn't really what we desire. And what I mean by that is, I go, okay, you might have this process subconsciously in your head where you go, I want to get in shape. I heard triathletes are in really good shape. I want to do a triathlon.
Right.
And then something happens where my bicycle breaks and I can't afford to fix it. And I go, oh no, now I can't reach my goal. But because I wasn't clear on the why I want to be a triathlete in the first place, I can't readjust, reassess, and move forward.
Right.
Getting in shape, it's a great one. A lot of people will say, all right, my goal is to go to the gym 5 days a week. Well, I mean, just look at how the country's been with the COVID. The gym has been open, it's been closed. It's been open, it's been closed.
Yeah.
So how do you set that goal? You got to get clear on the why.
Yeah.
And then setting so many things, just putting a list of so many things that you, no matter what obstacle comes up, you have a solution to kind of circumvent that issue.
Right. Right. Because you know what your why is. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like I want to lose weight. I mean, you can lose weight. Burning calories is still running around the block. It's
Right.
still, getting a kettlebell and doing 100 swings,
Right.
or
Right.
whatever you have, getting on your old exercise bike you got in the garage or whatever.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
also think it's good, man, to have a buddy or a person in your life that you're setting the goal with, and then put a time frame on it, and then keep each other accountable. I think that's another
Absolutely.
part that people miss. They say, well, I'm going to do this all myself. Well, if you're only accountable to yourself, you can let yourself slide a lot.
Exactly.
And, oh,
Yeah, it's in
you
my
know,
brain. My justifications always sound. And you and I think that this is, one of the pillars of our friendship has always been the accountability. We've
yes,
been accountability buddies since, man, like I'd say about a month into our relationship. Right? Hey, how about we set
absolutely.
some goals?
Yeah,
And you know, I can justify something sounding kind of off in my head, but then when I have to actually physically tell you, well, you see, it's this, and my wife, she wasn't let me get enough sleep, and this, I start sounding like, ooh, that sounds really like,
yeah,
like
yeah,
not a very good reason to not follow
yeah,
through with goals, you know?
yeah. It's like that somebody's going to ask you the question. I love that.
Yep.
Somebody's
Yeah.
going to ask you. And, I think it's good to say, hey, man, I'm going to set this goal. Just ask me if you could remember, just ask me how I'm doing next week on it. So, the question's going to come. I remember in college, there was a group of us that were going to do this, like, fasting diet or something. And we made the decision that we're going to do it for a month. It was like a juice cleanse and all, healthy foods and everything. And so what we did was we bought a can of Alpo and dog
The
food,
Alpha diet. Yep.
Alpo diet. And we said, if the first one to fail, this is like the Seinfeld, the contest type thing. Remember that episode when they had the contest? Who's going to fail first? And Kramer folds, puts his $100 on the table. So we have this can of Alpo, right, sitting in this place in the dorm. First one to break it eats the can.
Oh,
Like 4 or 5
oh,
of us. You're eating the can if you break it, right? Are we in? Yes, we're in. So, it doesn't have to be that extreme, but maybe have some kind of thing there that, okay, if one of us breaks it, this is what's going to happen, and be playful with it.
yes.
Nobody broke the diet for that month. It wasn't horribly stringent or strict, but because nobody wanted to eat the frickin' Alpo,
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I think sometimes you gotta play games with yourself a little bit too.
Oh,
You gotta make it
absolutely.
playful and fun, and then, because if you don't, then it takes the juice out of it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think we get tricked by TV and movies, where you see the montage and it's just so
Yeah.
serious. I, you
Yeah.
know, I look back on from 19 to about 33, just taking myself way too seriously. you
Totally.
know, and
Totally.
it's just like, did I really accomplish anything more? Probably not. It
Yeah.
just, I could have done the same things and had a little bit more fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're just
Well,
like,
I think, yeah.
you're writing these goals. If I fail this goal, my life is going to be ruined, and this is the most important day of my life.
Yeah.
And you're just like, you
Yeah.
know,
I remember that. Yeah.
yeah,
I suck if I don't do this. I suck. Listen,
yeah, yeah. And those are usually the times where just the spinners of fate just decide to amuse themselves with your.
cut off. Oh, there I am. Okay, I got a
Oh,
phone
there
call.
we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, internet's been a funny thing. I don't know, dude. I think it's this DC thing. You know,
Yeah.
right, dude?
Yeah. Crazy.
Holy shit, dude! I don't
Crazy. I know. Yeah. No comment.
even. When we end this podcast, you and I we'll wrap on that.
We'll rap about that. Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah,
Holy.
it's true. And I'm 47. I think you just turned 40, right? So
Mhm.
we entered the
Yeah.
big 40. I used to think anything over like 30 was old. And but I see this kind of transition that happened around the age of 40, and we've talked about it, and you've seen the same thing where you just kind of change, a little bit. it's not that you still don't have that motivation or you still don't have that desire to set goals. You do, but it's mixed with a little bit more of maturity, and your why becomes a little bit more inclusive, than just the self, which is good.
Yeah.
Help other people is a good thing to feel more of. And I notice people that are younger, a lot of their goals have to do with being seen. Like, look at me, I'm tough, or I'm strong, or I'm thin, or I'm whatever I am. Kind of like seeking a certain sense of identity that they want to create. And I don't think
Yes.
that's bad. I mean, I
No.
did the same thing. You did the same thing. You have to go through that uh, process. You can't avoid that and be this, altruistic Gandhi Mother Teresa at 25. It's not going to happen. You want to be seen. You want to make something of yourself. But then after a while, you change.
Yes.
And so because you change, that's why it's good to set those goals in short-term spurts, because in 6 months you're not going to be the same guy wanting the same thing. And I think that's one of the challenges with big goals is sometimes we set those big goals, and in the process of going to attain the goal, the person that set the goal 6 months ago is not the guy 6 months later going for the same goal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, it's literally, like any movie you watch, right, where the character goes through some kind of thing. If it's a well written or complex movie or even book, right, the character isn't the same person at the end of the book after all of the experiences and they go through it.
yeah,
And so, you know, that's imitating life. And we don't take that into consideration a lot of times, how much we're affected by those things, and it changes, and you go through things and those goals might completely change.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
my mother used to always say this, and it was so true, and she's never been wrong once on this one thing that she said to me when I was young was, you're never going to end up where you think you will in 5 years.
yeah, yeah. That's true.
And it scared me when I heard that, because I was just like, oh, that sounds so like, ooh. But in reality, you know, I remember a time when I was still, a Border Patrol agent, and I had goals of things that I wanted to do 5 years down the line as a Border Patrol agent. And then just, fate just took me a different way, and I ended up doing something so much more fulfilling that I
Yeah.
didn't see myself doing 5 years prior when I was, in the middle of my whole thing. And being okay with that and realizing that that's just how life is.
And it's a part
And
of the process. I think, like, one of the smartest things I ever heard about that is God directs a moving ship. So when we're moving toward a certain goal, sometimes it's really easy. If we're staying still, nothing happens. So if you're just sitting the boat in the dock and you're dreaming and philosophizing, nothing happens. But if you move out, even if you have to say, oh, okay, well, I wanted this at the onset, but maybe I should turn right a little bit. Maybe I should turn left a little bit. Maybe I should turn a little bit this way. Then you can direct it, and you can feel that inspiration. God directs a moving ship. But if you're sitting
yes,
in the dock and you're making a goal that doesn't involve like moving the ship one step forward, then you can't self-direct because you're not
yeah,
moving. So even if the goal changes, you can
oh,
you can
it's so
still move.
true, Paul. I even think of like my own experience with my school, like the vision that I had when I opened it. It
Yeah,
was so different than where I'm at, but I didn't know that until I set off on the course.
right.
And I was able to get clearer about, no, you know what, that isn't what I want. Like, I thought I wanted like an MMA school, and they
Right.
have fighters and this, and I'm a coach fighter and this, and the as I started to work that direction, things would happen where I go, you know what, that isn't really what I want. This is the piece of it, and redirecting that ship, and it becoming something. I mean, it's night and day from what I had envisioned to what it is now, but I'm so satisfied because I took the course.
It's good that it's not what you wanted then, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and what your mom said, that's super wise. You know, I started studying Zen in my 31. It's something that's real important to me that I still study. It's like meditation. And my first teacher, you know, he'd always go, you know, I think at the time he was 56 and I was 30. So 56 was really old, but now I'm down the barrel of my 50s here pretty soon coming up.
Like, it's not so old.
Not so old. I hope it's not old, right? But one of the things he said that I really liked, you know, he would always say, you know, I'm 56 now, and 20 years ago, I never thought my life would turn out like this, but it's been good. You know, it's been good, even though it hasn't all happened the way I wanted. But, you know, but yeah, I think that's really something important to realize, making those goals. And then even realizing, even if they morph or change, that's okay, because you're moving in a certain direction. And that's where new inspiration can come, or another idea, or you meet another person. They see you working toward that goal. And then these friends come alongside that you would have never met had you not started that new endeavor, or had you not opened a martial arts school, or tried to be, you know, for me, I mean, when I opened my Sansu school, it was like, coming from my background in California, you know, I was going to train all these big tough guys, you know, and we both have tough guys in our school, right? We got some tough guys in our school, but
Absolutely, yeah.
The funny thing is, and that's great, you know, but the funny thing is, now as an older person, I enjoy teaching everybody, but I really enjoy teaching the person that I know, even if they've never been in a fight, or they're timid, or, you know, they're scared. I enjoy seeing that person become tough.
It's so much more fulfilling.
It's more fulfilling, right? The tough guy's already a tough guy. He already knows how to punch somebody in the mouth or tackle him, right? But I found it more fulfilling to say, whoever wants this, even if it's a little kid or a girl, or you know, that is never going to be an MMA fighter, I find great value in showing that person how to help themselves. It's just more fulfilling. And I think that maybe in my 30s, I'd go, oh man, where's all my tough guys, you know?
Yes.
And that's changed for me. And I'm glad, because it's more fulfilling, you know?
Yeah, you know, I had a friend who ran a CrossFit gym for a little bit, and the same thing happened, and he had to kind of re-envision it. Where what ended up happening was he was a super strong power lifter guy, you know, did, you know, these strongman competitions and things, and he was just like, it was a weird change, because, you know, he and his wife opened this gym, and he just got tons and tons of women there.
Yeah.
And so he had to redirect it, but he was like, yo, I'm making way more of an impact on these ladies' lives who just want to get into shape, versus, you know, maybe helping somebody 1% get a little bit better on a power lift. But hey, thanks, bud, that was cool. But
yeah,
you're literally changing somebody's life from being out of shape to loving being in shape.
right.
I mean, what a profound thing. And we do the same thing every day, and that's what I find way more fulfilling. You know, when you take somebody who's like, this martial arts thing is okay, to the guy who's just like, now all of a sudden he's all in. He's reading books about it. It's like when
he's losing weight, you watch him come in and like,
he's the martial artist in his group of friends, and it's so amazing.
Yeah,
you know, it's so awesome, man.
Yeah, it is. It is. You know, this guy that I like to read, I think you've heard of him. His name is Brian Tracy. I think his name is Brian Tracy. He wrote the book, Eat That Frog, and he talks about goal setting. And he has you do this exercise where you sit down and every day you write your 10 top goals every day, every morning. And you make them positive, personal, and present tense. You know, it's just another tool, right? So
I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah, and it's really good, man. I did it in my young 30s, and I did it for like a year. I'd go to Starbucks, get my coffee. And so positive, personal, and present tense, meaning I'm so happy, excited, and grateful now that my academy has 300 members and blah, 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 blah. And so he says positive, personal, and present tense. So you put yourself in it and you envision it, because the mind works with imagination more than it does with, you know, words. So what he says to do is, you don't try to discover what your top 10 goals are, like write them down, and then the next day do it again, but don't look at yesterday's. So what'll happen in the first 10 days is as you're writing them down, they're all going to be like hodgepodge and different. But by like day 11, day 12, all of a sudden they start to be the same 10 things. And by the end of the 30 days, you're really clear on the top 10 things that you want. And then he says, after that 30 days, continue writing them. And if I take that notebook, because I still have it, and I open and I look at those top 10 goals, I'd say 90% of them, I have them.
Yeah. And they're just seared. They're just seared in your soul.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and I know a lot of people here are martial artists, and I think they can relate to this.
Yeah.
Where for like drilling for jiu-jitsu, I still drill arm bars, even though it's like it's not really helping me with the arm bar. But what it does is it makes me subconsciously cognizant of all the places where the arm bar. It's like it's right at the top of my, almost like that old thing where what is it? Dude, I can't even think of it now. Every time once I think of this, oh, dude, it was like that. The Secret. Remember The Secret?
Yeah.
Where it's really it's just that you're subconsciously always cognizant of the situations where they become present because you're always thinking about that goal.
Right.
You know, where it's like I drill 1,000 arm bars. I'm going to be hitting arm bars, man, because I'm thinking about arm bars.
Right. Exactly.
You go, oh yeah, this is that little nuance that I can hit the arm bar from, and everything else, man. You know?
It's like in your body. Your body does it automatically.
Exactly. Hold on 1 second, buddy. My one of my kids is.
No sweat.
All right. I'm thinking there's a giant emergency outside.
And we're back.
Yeah, we're back. And my kids, I want to show you this on the iPad, Dad. I'm like, I'm in the middle of a call.
Hold on. Yeah.
Always how it goes, man.
Yeah.
All right, man. So I think that's really important. If you guys are having trouble with setting the goal, please check out that link. And Paul and I probably are going to talk offline about our own goals and kind of go through them. But have somebody. You've got to share your goals, and I think it's really important for a couple of reasons. The accountability, one. And number two, sometimes somebody being able to creatively help you to circumvent the hurdles and obstacles that you're going to encounter. Sometimes you can't. It's like having a coach in your corner for a fight, right? Your jab's not working. Like, dude, if you just move a little to the left, get your head low, you can drive that jab right up into his face, and you go, "Oh shit, okay."
Yeah.
You know, and goal setting can be very similar to that. So,
it's a really good link, man. I mean, it's really well written, and it really highlights what Tony Robbins talks about, but also with your own flair on it. I really liked it. I read it last night.
Cool. Thank you.
But yeah, you're right. And like what we talked about before we went on, which was just anticipate the resistance, anticipate it. It's going to happen. You're not going to always feel like it. But that's a part of it. And, there's a proverb in the Bible that says when the trough is clean, the ox isn't working, which basically means, if there's a really clean feeding trough, the ox isn't doing anything. He's not eating. So it's going to be messy, right? So when you go to try to attain that goal, there's going to be some obstacles to overcome. There's going to be times when you lack motivation, and it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be a little bit messy. But when you stay with it, you really accomplish something, even if you feel the resistance, you're able to kind of blow through it when you already anticipate, well, there's going to be resistance.
Wow.
There's going to be resistance, There's that really good book. I think it's called, Joe Rogan gives this book out to everybody he meets. I think it's called, The Art of War. Everybody knows The Art of War. This one's called The War of Art. And he actually keeps that book with him and he hands it out to people. And that's what he says as far as
Stephen Pressfield. Yep.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. Very
awesome book.
Great book. And he says that's the biggest enemy of progress, resistance.
Yep.
Resistance. So learning to work with resistance, like we were talking about before, that there's going to be resistance. It's going to happen.
I'm going to pull that one out of the out. Stephen Pressfield is actually one of my favorite authors. He wrote probably the best book, Gates of Fire, on the Spartans, and also,
wow.
yeah, it's such a beautiful book, man. I'm going to recommend that one for you. But
Okay,
but if people don't know who Stephen Pressfield is, he wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance, and
I know that.
yeah.
Wow.
And so when you read The War of Art, you're reading a guy who's an extremely prolific historical fiction writer. Amazing author. I think when I look at him, he's genius. But that book is so inspirational.
Yeah.
I just it really just breaks down where you go, yeah, that's exactly who I am.
Yeah.
And seeing who it is and how to be a professional at this.
Right.
Or yeah,
Right.
beautiful book.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
it's good. I got to revisit it.
Yeah, let's do it, man. We'll have a talk. All right, Paulie, we're coming up on the 35-minute mark. I think that's good, my man.
All right.
But you guys have questions on goal setting, don't hesitate to reach out to Paul or myself. I love it. I get jazzed when people are setting goals and I get to help them, and it motivates me to get back in it on my own stuff. So don't ever hesitate if you guys have questions or, hey, can you help me with this or that? Reach out to us. And
yes, absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right, Paulie. I will see you later, my man.
Okay, brother. Thanks, man. That was fun.